Today, I'm going to roast my portfolio, and I'm going to let the inner voices win. I'm going to show you guys today why I think it's so important to look at your stuff from an analytical point of view, a little bit more removed than we normally are, and how you can benefit from it as a photographer. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Sergio and I'm a commercial photographer here in Victoria, BC. I shoot primarily food and advertising, still life, things like that. But we're going to go through my portfolio and show you exactly what it is that I do shoot and how I advertise myself and what I market to the clients that I'm trying to market to. I just overhauled a little bit of my website. I haven't done any of the SEO. I haven't done any of the re-edits or any kind of organizing to make it look a certain way. I just threw a bunch of new pictures in there and I kind of want to go over some of the calling decisions that we're going to make together and something that I think is very important to do as a photographer. So if I were just looking at this portfolio, let's say from a third-party point of view, that's something that I like to do even when I'm looking at my own stuff, to not try to remember all of the stories and all of the individual little things that are happening when I'm looking at these images. Like when you look at your photos, you're going to remember how you shot it and it's going to make you feel like you like it more than you should. So try to remove yourself from that. Try to not do that. So very first, that's super bright. I don't like that this is dry and this is wet. Very much story-based photography. Looks like the colors and the lighting seems very coherent, very similar. This kind of looks out of place. This one's maybe a little bit different, but a lot of this stuff is like a little basic in terms of composition. There's not much going on. It's definitely about the lighting and the story of what's happening, not so much the composition. There's not a very strong approach to composition. So this is all very simple. The backgrounds and stuff are shot a little bit differently, but in terms of composition, it's a little boring. I like the use of negative space, which helps for brands to feel like they can picture this as an advertisement, or they could picture this as this can be, their soup or their product, and then just easily have some writing above it that says, sale or whatever it is, That's kind of important in the type of commercial work that I do. Next up here, we've got some more food stuff. Definitely some emphasis on making the food look good and delectable, which is nice. Kind of interesting with there we go. It's kind of a bit more fun with the compositions here. Okay, here's a bunch of flat lays. See, I personally know that some of these, I was in and out of the restaurant in 45 minutes, but the client doesn't know that. They don't know that I shot this in my living room on a cloudy, rainy day. They just see that the plate in the middle is not in the middle, and the composition is a little bit off in this one. At least that's what I see now. But I still remember how hard this shot was. It's just me and the owner of the food truck who drove to my apartment, and we threw all the stuff in the kitchen in my apartment, and we shot all this in my living room. This was fun. It was a cool shoot, but yeah, no, people don't know that. People just see that this is kind of weird. At least, that's how I look at it now. So maybe that's why it's at the bottom of my portfolio here. Let's just go back. I go back to the bottom here where I was. A few more little things, basic shots. See, like this, yes, it makes me want to eat a donut, but I don't think this adds anything that, these other shots aren't already including. It might continue to further this vision that I have and further the idea of what these brands can expect from working with me, but I think it's a little bit redundant at this point. I do know that this portfolio is my beefiest one out of all of them, so I think there's definitely some room to cut back in my food portfolio here, you get the idea without having to see all of these images. I think anywhere between 30 and 50 is usually a good call. 50 is definitely on the high end, but it depends on what you're doing. If it's story-based, if you have a lot of images that go together, it's important to create little stories within that. And we're going to get to that in a bit because I do have a little bit of that's coming up. But first, let's just go to drink, which is, if I recall, my smallest portfolio. And I'm shooting this maybe a week or two, maybe even 3 weeks before this video comes out. So hopefully by the time this video comes out, there's going to be more images in here, and the SEO on them is going to be fixed as well. So if it's not, please hold me accountable to that. Let me know down in the comments that I did not fulfill my duties as a photographer. But yeah, so let's just see here. Yeah, there's only 20 or so images in here, but I used to have, before I did this overhaul of my portfolio, I used to have just creatives and commissions, which is basically paid work and unpaid work. And or the other way around. But what happened is the more and more I was shooting this past 2 years, I'm realizing that my creative work and my paid work was kind of meshing together, and it was becoming a lot more coherent between the two of them. So I just wanted to put all of these things together and more so group them the way that I see other advertising photographers in my area group their stuff. I have always wanted to be different. I've always wanted to have my own way or whatever it is. But if there's other people in your industry that have a certain look and a certain style to their website, there's a reason for that. So when the agency reps and the art buyers are looking at your website, they want to be able to easily find what it is that they want to find. And you want to be able to look like the other photographers a little bit, at least in terms of design and structure, so that your images can easily be sold without you having to sell them. Sometimes it's very important to cold call, so to speak, and let people know what it is that you can do. But sometimes people are just going to stumble across your stuff. And if they stumble across it, they need to be able to very easily see what your message is, what your brand is like, what your marketing is like, what your look is. And if they can see that without even talking to you, you're probably doing pretty well. So next, let's go through this drink portfolio here real quick. I like the styling. This is blown out. You can have blown out shots. You can have untechnically perfect shots. I just don't think it adds anything to this portfolio specifically. Does this belong in my drinks portfolio? Not really. Maybe I'll move it around. I think I'm just trying to beef up this drinks portfolio is what I'm realizing. There should be an X that I can X out of that. I don't like how the layout of this portfolio is right now. Yeah, I don't know. This is like, it's pretty, but it's not super unique. It's not necessarily telling a story that you can't find elsewhere. I think if I was an art buyer or a creative director and I was looking at this, I could sell you to different clients if I was looking at this portfolio. But at the same time, I could easily sell someone else who does something very similar. I don't see a whole lot of personal vision in these images. So as an art buyer, I would pass. And as a photographer, I'm seeing this and I'm like, okay, that's something to improve on. That's something I need to change. That's something I need to grow on. Next, let's go through the next portfolio here is product. So product as well is something that I had a hard time putting in, but I'm realizing that it's still life. Between food and product, like, yeah, there's some variety and there is some intricacies that with food that you don't necessarily get with other products, and you can tap into emotional differences as well. But I do like the slower approach of being able to create a scene, have the camera up, shoot something, not like it, tweak it by 2 degrees, tweak it until it's just right. So that's one thing I quite enjoy about shooting product, shooting still life in general. Okay, I'm going to put my art buyer hat on. Clearly there's a story here. All of this seems to be very floral based. Emphasis on greens and on nature. Makes sense. I like these images together. I'm being very biased here. I just shot them, so shh, but it's okay. Okay, so you see, this is the third time now that this guy has put in a stop motion. So it's food, drink, and product. There's 3 stop motions in them. So they start to look a little bit less out of place. I will say, however, the quality of them doesn't seem to be necessarily up to par with the rest of the photography. But it is fun to see. It's fun to see a little bit of movement, a little bit of variety, that it's possible. I would just like to see a lot more of it and a higher quality of motion and of just a bigger production value. I think these images could be a lot better than very static little shots like this. The poutine one on the first page was also very basic. Sometimes you don't need to reinvent the moon, but I just think there's more that can be done to that shot. Looks like we've got some soap. Again, the emphasis on this dappled type of lighting seems to enjoy this. He seems to be very it's weird to talk about myself in the third person. But there's no shying away from shadows. Let's just put it that way. It's not trying to make everything super bright. It's clearly using the shadows to tell the story, create some mood and some emotion in the shots, and not just trying to hide them. This is kind of strange. Seems like the only shot that's like not in a studio. Seems like. Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Looks like it's the only shot that's not in the studio here. Looks a little weird, but not completely out of place. Maybe I should put this. So, as a photographer, I know that there's more shots of this set in the lifestyle stuff. So maybe I should just put it in the lifestyle stuff. I do think it stands out a little bit, even though it's next to the other skateboard. It's meh. Yeah, like this here is a lot more. Well, I guess these are soaps, but I feel like there's some order wrong. There's like they don't flow together. There's no harmony between the pictures here. So I think there's some emphasis that needs to be put on trying to put the images in an order that is more enjoyable for the viewer, more enjoyable for the person looking at them. What I like is there's definitely still this idea of storytelling and kind of creating like these little worlds, these little moods, the dappled lighting, very consistent look throughout the food, drink, and products. Always a little bit of food in the product stuff, which is kind of neat to see. There's definitely some like overlap, trying to show that it's similar. I don't know. Doesn't necessarily need to be there. I see why he's doing it, but this too, you should probably clean up this mirror. I don't know. There's some editing to do, obviously. This is not a great shot either. See, okay, so I'm going to cut in as a photographer now. Knowing that I took this shot in a store is definitely adding my bias of like, whoa, look what I was able to create in an active store in the middle of the day. But I don't think it really comes across to someone who isn't explained that. So I think I'm going to ex-nay it. I'm going to remove that. And then we're going to move on. Since we're kind of here, I'm going to go over to interiors and we're going to save lifestyle for last because I think this is kind of a bit more similar. Whereas I struggled in putting these images up on my portfolio for a little while because I've been shooting this for a few years and it's not something that necessarily is the same as my other stuff. And I was always like, I don't know if it meshes together. But I'm realizing in this smaller market, if I broaden my reach a little bit, I can accept more jobs and I can showcase my work to different clients that aren't necessarily so far away from the main clients I'm trying to impress anyway. I look at a lot of the advertising photographers that are represented by some of the bigger agents in Canada, and I see that a lot of them are shooting still life, product, food, and interiors. And that's not an uncommon thing because when you think about it, these are just bigger products. You know, I'm shooting couches, I'm shooting counter stools. They're just bigger apples, really, is all they are. So if I can think about lighting the room instead of just lighting this one individual little thing, then I can apply that same type of technical ability to my interior stuff rather than just the food and product stuff in a studio. I definitely am still a sucker for motion. Oh, wait, sorry. Let me put my art buyer hat back on. Cool shot. Looks like there's some stuff that could be edited out. Looks like there's some SEO stuff that could definitely be changed, but cool stuff. What's neat is there's definitely still an emphasis on this like side light. He loves using side light. He's not really a top-down lighter type of guy, it seems like. Very much side light and a lot of depth in the images, whether there's product or food or from this interiors point of view. And I'm going to guess on the lifestyle one too. But there's a lot of depth in these images. I think it's very noticeable that that is a key component in the way that this photographer composes his images. This is so strange. I'm sorry. If this comes off weird as talking to myself in the third person, let me know. Make fun of me down in the comments. I didn't plan on doing this, but it's just coming out this way. And it's, I don't know, it seems weird in the moment, but I don't know. We'll just go with it. One of the things I kind of don't like about interiors is that oftentimes you can take a really technically amazing shot, but if it's like not styled well and if it's not like a $5 million house, it just doesn't look as good. Whereas some of these things are like, you know, I mean, this isn't my house. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to create a living room shot like this in any other home other than this one. So it's not cheating, but there's a little bit of like, you know, the house is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Let's put it that way. It's funny how there's still a huge emphasis on storytelling, and there's a mood that's being created in all of these shots. Even though they're bright and airy, they're not like as moody or as directional in terms of light. I mean, there's still definitely some, emphasis on the light and on the shadows and stuff like that. But what's cool is that there's always a story. There's always like something happening that creates a little bit of a scene that you're like, oh, okay, I would like to be there. I'd like to enjoy my time there. And that's what, again, photographer for me is trying to do with his product and food work. It's like, I want you to feel like you get to eat this plate and it's right in front of you and you want to eat it. I want you to be able to unwrap this whatever and be like, wow, this is my new thing. I want you to be able to look at this living room and be like, man, I can't not imagine myself sitting on this couch and watching a movie here. So that's one of the approaches that I like to bring to my work in general. Bringing there's a huge emphasis on the viewer who is watching or looking at the pictures. That's the way I've always shot, whether I knew I was doing it or not. But it's something that I don't shy away from including the audience in the shot. Put it that way. Cool, very neat. Like I'm not a bath person, but there we go. Couple tear sheets. So tear sheets, I would say, are, they're not as necessary, but if you have them, I can't see them hurting necessarily either. This is the shot that was in my billboard video. If you guys haven't seen it, the shot was printed up as a billboard here in Victoria. It's still up. It's pretty neat. It's cool to see. Every time I drive by, I'm always like, hey, I shot that. But this is one of the shots. It's funny because this is the first one that's in the port is the one with the little girl running by, which I've always preferred as a shot. I think the mom told her to go get the remote or something that was on the counter, and I was already set up, so we just took a couple frames, and that came out real neat. But anyway, that's the interiors portfolio. Let's move on. Lastly, we're going to look at the lifestyle shots, which I think is my newest portfolio, but also one of my most exciting ones. It's taking some of the portrait work that I've done for 8 years leading into my food, commercial, still life work. So it's blending a lot of my newer skills with some of my older skills and just kind of playing with that. And I love the ability to do that. Back with art buyer hat on. Again, huge emphasis on the viewer. This is like I'm there with this photographer. This is so much more about the mood and the feeling than like the technicalness of each shot. Like there is very much a huge emphasis on the viewer. I had a friend of mine reach out to me and tell me that they feel like my work looks like it's a little brother who took it. It opened up my mind to a idea of being the little brother that I've always been, obviously enough. And I now see it in a lot of the work, whether it was conscious or not, but it definitely is. I'm the little brother who's showing you my point of view when I'm at all of these cool places, whether I would go to a concert or whether I'm backstage with a band, whether I'm at this restaurant showing you how the burgers are made and not just the burgers. All of this stuff is about being a little brother and showing you my point of view. And I think if you can do that with your photography, you're going to impress a lot more art buyers and a lot more creative directors and a lot more. Just find who it is that you are and put that into your work. And you might already be doing that, whether you are conscious of it or not, like I was. But it's clearly why my work has a consistent look throughout all the different portfolios, is because I'm just being true to me, and it helps bring out that in your work. Let's just run through these a little bit quicker. We've got the chef work and his food. Oh, right, I'm an art buyer. Never mind. Sorry. Hi. Very directional lighting and very much big emphasis on the viewer. I think some of these images might be redundant. I don't know if I need like 6, 7 shots of the same shoot to sell the image, or to sell like the story kind of vibe. But it is nice to see that, this is very much clearly all of these people, all these shots go together, and this shoot is very much one shoot, and you can tell that it looks similar. One thing that's cool about this is it looks very much like the food work, even though this was clearly in the middle of the day outside on location. What else we got here? There's a interesting color shift as well. It's like kind of like dark and then a little bit blue, and now it gets kind of green. So there's definitely a thought process put there, which is kind of neat. Makes it harmonious for the viewer who's looking at it, and not just for the individual images, but as a portfolio as a whole. It's funny. So this is these are new images. As photographer Sergio back here, these are new images that I shot recently with my little X100, the original one from like 2012 or whatever. And it's quite neat to see that like these like super blown out highlights are right next to this shot and this shot, which are like technically much better photos. But it is neat to see that, you know, it's the story that's more important. It's not about the gear. It's not about the camera. It's about the story of foraging and finding the mushrooms and creating a meal, rather than just, you know, the technical ability of a certain shot. Hey, Ricky, my good friend from high school. If you were this excited about vegetables, you'd probably look like that too. Back to the portfolio here. Lighting and the technique could use some work, but the pictures look great. I could see many brands wanting to utilize these and wanting these for themselves. Some more tear sheets. Well, this is different. Some construction work. Again, like, big emphasis on, I mean, you know, there's so much depth, and it makes you feel like you're there and you're looking into what's actually happening. And it does have a very unique perspective for the viewer, which is pretty neat. It's something that, as an art buyer, I could sell and I could market very easily. I could see this photographer and be like, hey, if you guys want something that is behind the scenes access, makes you feel like you're there with your client or with your audience, this is the photographer for you. And I think that's very important, to find a way to look at your own work and find those little individual things that you create and see the overlap amongst all your different portfolios, all the different images you shoot, and try to find the overlapping layer. It's not how you color graded it. It's not how you have crooked shots or something. Like, it's more zoomed out than that. For me, it's being a little brother. You know, you don't think about that when you're picking up a camera and taking pictures. But if you can look at the overlap of all of the different types of shots you take and try to find something, you'll be better as a photographer if you can use that and approach it to your next and further shoots. Some skateboarding. And this is, so this is all the stuff with the band. Photographer Sergio's back. This is the stuff I included with the band. I think I rounded out the portfolio like this. I did, yeah. So this is the last stuff here. My lifestyle stuff, I tried to include a little bit more of the food stuff in there, and not just random lifestyle images that I had, but some of the stuff that is a little bit more food oriented, just to try to create a little bit of harmony amongst the whole portfolio. I do still, I don't want to say prefer shooting food, but I love shooting food. It's something that I very much enjoy doing. I love having the emotional attachment to it. But for the most part, still life is still my favorite, and now being able to incorporate lifestyle, which is a little bit more free flow and still gives me the ability to light things the way I want to light them, and just gives me, again, that ability to be a little brother and show you unique perspectives and unique angles and create a lot of depth in my images and have something of a coherent body of work among all of my different portfolios, while still being technical and have the ability to create things that are true to me and true to my style. Like, I think, you know, this as a food shot is very similar to my actual food stuff. Like it or leave it, but yeah, this makes me happy when I look at it. Sorry, LJ. I hope you're okay with me posting this. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you guys take this into consideration the next time you're looking at your own portfolio, and to just try to put that little art buyer hat on. If there's something you like, just let me know down in the comments. There's a couple dozen of you that comment regularly, so I have a general idea of who you are, but there's also like 1,000 of you that tend to watch these videos, so let's have a little bit more of a dialogue, so I don't have 5 of you that are talking for 500 of you. Anyway, leave a like if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys in a couple days. Later.